Right, welcome everybody. It is so great to have you part of another session of Elite Masterminds. It's a session where topics are discussed in amongst agents and ultimately lands on my desk. Now, in typical fashion, I would invite somebody in to have a discussion about it. But with many agents, they actually reached back to me and they said, "Hey, Stuart, that's a great topic and I'd actually love to learn a little bit more." So today what we're going to be talking about is personal branding. And personal branding is so vital for your business. Now, in doing a little bit of research, I came across this quote from Jeff Bezos, and it really stood out, and I actually enjoyed it. I'm going to read it to you. Your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And when I actually looked at that particular quote, it got my head spinning. You see, so too often, we want to have this personal brand that people can recognize you on the fly, and they say, "Hey, I know that Stuart," and "Hey, I know exactly who that particular individual is." And that's all great. But what are people saying when you're not around? Because if you think about it, if your personal brand is so strong that people are talking about you in a positive light when you're not around, imagine the impact for your business. So that's one of the big keys that I want you to take away from today is when you're building your personal brand, think about that quote from Jeff Bezos. Your personal brand is what people are saying about you when you're not in the room. So that's going to be a key, and take that particular quote down, because as you start going through building up your personal brand, you're going to start thinking about it in a different way. Now, one of the big questions that I ask myself is why personal brands actually matter in real estate. Now, that particular quote really sums it up and pulls it together. But one of the big things that we must realize is in real estate, we deal with people. It's a people business. We're building relationships on an ongoing basis. And in a relationship building business, you want more and more people to know you, trust you, and ultimately want to work with you. So how do we actually do that? Well, that goes with your personal branding. You can see how it actually starts to support. It brings in these connections that you never had. More and more people know you. They start talking about you. They understand what you do. And that's actually going to start building up that personal brand. Now, for many, I've actually said as a corporation, their brand is typically the colors and their logo, as well as these little slogans that might come out. But for you as an individual, it's your face. It's what people see. It's what people know about you that you need to actually start getting out there. So let's go into what I did a little bit of research, and there are these core elements that actually kind of built up how to build a strong personal brand. And it took me a while to almost categorize them down. But when I start looking back at them, they're actually quite obvious. So the first one, and there's 5 core elements. So if you're writing this down, there's 5 core elements that you will start to look at in your particular business so that you can create that personal brand. Now, please don't cross this over to a corporate brand. I'm not talking about building the brand of your team, your company, your organization, or anything like that. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you. So that's your personal brand. So we can define the difference there. So there are five core elements that I want to share with you, and you can take these down. Now, the very first one is your brand identity. And your brand identity, for many people, they always think, well, my brand identity is what I wear. Yes, it is. It's how I look. Yes, it is. Slogans and all of that. But it actually goes beyond that. It actually, who are you as an individual? That becomes part of your brand identity. It's your values, it's your passions, it's your strengths. It's things that actually build the character of who you are. It's that authenticity side of you. So if you had to strip out that you are a real estate agent or you're an entrepreneur in the real estate space, what is that individual that's left? And for many of us, we actually go in with this pseudo personality that we don't even know. And how are your clients going to start relating to you? So make sure it's authentic to yourself. The second part of your brand identity is, what do you want to be known for? You know, when I got into the real estate business, I wanted to be known for the person that helped families find homes. That was my drive. I wanted to make sure that the families that I dealt with could actually find a home that was safe and secure for them. Why? Because who am I as a person? I'm a family man. I've got kids. I live in a safe area. My kids were close to a school. I wanted all of that so that I could protect my family. So who I was as an individual is exactly the type of audience that I was actually looking for. And people got to know me. Hey, I'm actually looking for a house. I've got 2 kids. I need to go close to a school. That's who they would relate through to me. So make sure that when you're looking at your authentic, it actually starts to relate what you're known for. You see, when those two actually come together, you don't have to put on this fake face and say, I actually want to become a luxury real estate agent, but for me, I'm a family man who loves dealing with the young audience to buy their first homes. There's kind of a big difference between the two. So make sure that you've got that linked together. Now, once you've got that together, you start creating, and this is that first element, that defining your brand identity is around your unique selling proposition, that USP that you may have heard of many, many times. And really what this does is, when you can identify who you are, strip all the real estate away, that person inside, what you want to be known for when you're actually in the actual industry, you start adding that element into that unique selling proposition. And that unique selling proposition starts to elevate you so that you stand up above everybody else. So the first element is quite a powerful element for yourself. And I would strongly recommend, take a day, look at yourself, ask yourself the questions. What do I enjoy as a person? What is it that drives me? If I was looking for a home, what would I be looking for? Because that's how you can start to relate to your particular audience. And then you'll start to focus on that. How are you going to support that so that when your audience looks at you, they say, well, that's what he's known for. He's known for finding families homes in safe locations. And by identifying that, I built that into my unique selling proposition. And when I spoke with people, I would always talk about how my values as a family man, as a father, as a husband, I could actually take that and actually relate to them and start going forward. Now, I'm not saying that other real estate agents didn't have the same, but they didn't tell their clients that. So that's the first one. It's defining your brand identity. So that's that first core element. The second is, you've got to know your ideal client. Now, you cannot identify your ideal client if you don't know what you want to be known for. So that's why that first part is just so, so critical. Without that, you'll find it actually becomes quite difficult to connect the rest of the elements. So the second one is, know your ideal client. Now, for me, I've said to you, well, I want to be the man that is, or the real estate agent that's known as the family man. I help families find homes. So what would my ideal client be? Well, I know that you're sitting there and you can visualize my ideal clients. Young couples that maybe, when I say young, they've got young kids. So maybe their kids are probably between the ages of maybe from 8, 9 years, which would put them into the primary schools, going up to about 15, 16, maybe even hitting the higher age groups. Now I can look at that, and then I can start looking at their ages. And then I can also start looking at, well, where are they coming from? They could be a young couple that bought a flat, an apartment. They started to grow and then suddenly said, hey, we need to move out of this into a residential area close to a school so that our kids can go to those schools. So I can identify my ideal clients. So that's why it's so important when you know what you are as an individual and how you're going to be identified, you'll be able to identify those clients that you can relate to. Now, something amazing happens here when you can identify your clients and you will know them, because when you meet them for the first time, it's almost like everything just clicks together. It just syncs. And when it starts to sync, the conversations become so much easier because you can almost understand exactly what they want. You see, for me, I know my pain points. I know my goals. I know how I want to be communicated to. And my clients will be exactly the same. If I'm clear about what I'm feeling and what I know, what I want, I can actually relate to them. So when I look at them and have conversations, I can say to them a pain point. You want a secure location where your kids can grow up in safety. You want to be close to schools. You don't want to be commuting for an hour or 2 hours to get your kids to school. There's a pain point that you want to try and alleviate. Your goals is you want to be close to a place where, one, it could be safe. Two, you can actually get your kids to move from a primary school to a high school without having to relocate every 5 years when they move out. And ultimately, my communication style is very straightforward. Tell me as much information as possible. And we find with families, that's exactly what they want. So that's my ideal clients. And I can ultimately be able to communicate with them on an ongoing basis. So you'll see core elements 1 and 2 are so closely knit. And so too often when I sit down with a particular client and I say to them, tell me your ideal client, they find it a challenge. And the challenge is because they don't know their identity. So start with that identity, then jump into your particular ideal client and really age, where they're coming from, and ultimately, what would they want? A 3-bedroom house? Do they want a garden? Do they want to be in a secured boomed off area? Do they want to be close to schools, to shops, to transportation? What is that? And ultimately, you will actually answer those questions if you can actually relate. So those are the first 2 elements that I want to share with you. The third element is now we're starting to get into the point of, now that we've got our particular clients and we can actually communicate with them, we need to make sure that the third one is we're actually telling, I want to say, the same story. Now, what I mean by the same story is if I'm meeting you and I'm dressed like this, all right. But my profile picture is literally, I've got long hair, which as you can see, I don't have any hair. But if I've got long hair and I'm wearing maybe a t-shirt and the images don't connect, there's what we refer to as a brand disconnect. It's where your marketing and your authentic self, they do not connect. They're actually totally separate. And this comes quite clear for agents that have been in the industry for many, many years. They have those profile pictures, and I know you're probably going to smile and you're probably going to have a little smirk. They've got those profile pictures from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, but that was 20 years ago. And something happens to the human body over 20 years. It gets older, things change. So make sure that your relevance of that actual visual branding is relevant to what you are right now. So things like your headshots. I've actually suggested with agents, take a new headshot every single year. Don't just use the same headshot that you absolutely love and you've actually had that for the last 20 years because it's such a beautiful, magnificent image. Take a new headshot every single year. Use that headshot to update on all of your social medias, your business cards, your signatures, etc. Make sure it's uniformed across all of your particular platforms. It also keeps you more relevant. Make sure that your color scheme is exactly the same. So if you've got red on your business card, but on your email signatures, you've actually decided to go with a green, there's a disconnect. And then on your brochures, it's a purple. make sure the color scheme that you're using is exactly the same across everything. It just creates this comfortable place when people are starting to look at it. Now, the next one is making sure that it's consistent across social media. Because one thing that I am finding is, especially when people are doing live videos, and then they've got profile videos, and then they've got these testimonials with their image on it, there's this disconnect because it looks like three different individuals. So that's why take a headshot every single year, update even profile images, which is basically from the hip going upwards, and having that if you're using it on any of your social media marketing, and try even, and this is where you'll see a lot of big brands, and think of any franchise brand, try and have a very similar attire, something that people can relate to every single time. You see, your face doesn't change, but we do have the option to change our attire. And if we make it too drastic, it actually can knock our branding in the wrong direction. So that visual branding, that particular branding identity, make sure it is exactly the same across, as I said, your business cards, your flyers, your signatures, your social media profiles, on your website. Make sure it's got the same images that go across. And the great thing is, if you go and update it every single year, it actually gives you an opportunity to refresh your website and your social media every single year. And that actually becomes more relevant as you're going through. So that's the third one that I've actually picked out, is so too often there's this disconnect between, and even if it's just the face, the disconnect from a live video, or maybe it's a walkthrough video, to the profile picture on their social media, to the profile picture on their business card, to a profile picture which is on a testimonial from a client. They're all totally different, and ultimately people look at it and they see it as different people all the time. So make sure that you've got that uniformity across all of that. Now, the fourth element that I want to share with you, and this one here actually came from having deep conversations with agents about their success. And what I found is most of the successful agents that have referral business, so that's the success that I'm making the connection, they have a referral business, not the ones where it's new sales all the time or development sales. They're getting referral business. They've got incoming calls from their clients that have actually given them leads to say, hey, my friend, my family member, they're actually looking at buying or selling, etc. And I started to ask them the deeper question to understand what they're doing differently. And that's where this fourth element actually came out. And it actually was amazing. I will say this. What it is, it's the content and the story that they tell. Now, what do I mean by the content and the story that they tell? You see, when they're meeting with their particular clients, it's never a sales pitch. It's never something that is, I can list your property, I can sell your property, I've done X, Y, Z sales over the last 3 to 6 months. We're going to make sure we get the highest price. It's not a sales pitch that goes through. When I look at their sales presentation or their seller's presentation or buyer's presentation, it isn't a sales pitch. It isn't all about them. When you look at it, it's a story. It's almost a journey. And the journey goes something like this, and was shared by one of the agents. And I might get this totally wrong, but the whole idea is, when he meets a particular client, his story starts with asking them about their dream home. Where do you see yourself? What does that dream home look like? And this could be for a buyer or a seller, because a buyer, he gets a clearer picture of what he's looking for. For a seller, well, if you're selling, the chances are you're going to become a buyer. So he always starts it, tell us about that dream home. What does it actually look like? And through that particular process of understanding what that dream home is, they start talking the questions through this particular process of, well, what would it take you to get to that dream home? What would the area look like? What would the neighborhood look like? They start creating into this visualized story, which is not a sales pitch, but it's a visualized story of their particular dream home. Now, from a sales point of view, they're actually building deeper relationships because they get to know their client. They know exactly what they're actually looking for and this journey that they go through. And if it includes families on a separate story, if it includes families, it's basically, well, we've got this lovely school around the corner that actually has this particular principle. Their classes are only 20 to 22 children per class, so it's a low-size class. And they can start talking about the actual area. You see, storytelling is like education. It's about telling about the suburbs. It's telling this journey that you're actually going through. It's not about I have sold and what I have done and my recognitions and I can do this. It's all about a journey that you start to go through. And when I actually heard this, it actually blew my mind because people love to hear stories. It's why the entertainment industry thrives, because we get so engrossed in the story. We sit there for nearly 2 hours going through this entire story. And at the end of it, we carry on telling the story. If you think back to that quote from Jeff Bezos, and that's what really got to me, is if you're telling that particular story, and then you're able to get them to live that particular story, they will continue that particular story even when you're not around. And for me, it was one of the, I want to say the key, one of the most amazing light bulb moments speaking to an agent on that referral business, on how to get that story to continue when you're not around. What it also can do is you can start sharing success stories, stories of clients whereby, hey, I was working with this particular client. They were looking for a property that they couldn't find. It was outside of their range, their price range. And through this particular journey, we actually help them to identify and find their dream home. And when you start telling these particular stories, that is supported by those clients. So the storytelling includes the clients. Have it as interviews, have them talk with you so that they can actually almost authenticate these stories, that it starts to grow as you're starting to go forward. So it really is amazing. Now, I had these little key words that when I spoke with this particular agent, these little key words that actually I wrote down, and I've got them down here. First is educate. Second is inspire. And the third is entertain. These three key words really came out of the conversation. It's how I work as a coach. I want to get keywords to remember. So it's educate. If you're going through any form of story, you want to educate the clients. You want to inspire them, that they go, wow, that is amazing. That's why their dream comes in and going through. But you also want to have some form of entertainment, because entertainment keeps the conversation going. Now, all of that equals what they refer to as a brand magnetism. That's what people get attracted to. And you can actually think about this when you're looking at any brand across the world. Does it educate you? Does it inspire you? And does it entertain you? And you can actually think of the adverts, you can think of franchise, the way they do everything. They actually tick off those three boxes. And those three boxes equals brand magnetism. So that is through the storytelling that you're actually going through. So that was one of the biggest, I want to say, light bulb moments in having a conversation with a particular agent. So that was the fourth core element, which is the storytelling and getting that brand magnetism, because that's one way for people to remember you thereafter. Now, the fifth way, or the fifth core element, which is extremely important, is actually social media. But there's a little caveat here, because most people say, of course, Stuart, I know, I need a post on social media. I actually did this slightly different. I started looking at the different social media platforms and to understand what is the power behind each one of them. So when you're actually posting on a social media, most of us, and I'm guilty of it as well, we actually create one post and we share it across 5 different platforms, hoping to hit a maximum audience. But when I started to really dig down deeper, I got to identify that different social media platforms have different strengths. And this is what I want to share with you as the fifth core element under the heading of social media. Now, I'm going to give you the four social media platforms that I did a bit of research on. So it's Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. These are, if I look at them, they're the ones that cover the widest audience. And I didn't include TikTok because if you've joined me in any of my previous sessions, I did get quite a nasty little commenter and review. So I'm still a little hesitant on the TikTok side, but definitely TikTok can fall into this. But the four that I did the research on: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And really what I wanted to do is, what is the audience actually looking for? When you post something there, what should you be posting on these particular social media platforms so that you can get the highest level of engagement, but more importantly, that can build your brand that can be remembered. So highest level of engagement that you can build your brand on, that you can be remembered. So let's have a look at the first one, which is Instagram. Now, looking at Instagram, looking at the actual platform, the first thing, Instagram is on a mobile phone, all right? Mobile phone in your hand. And when I've actually done the review of what people spend a lot of time on Instagram, one, it's portrait, but what they love is kind of the storytelling of, for instance, a before and after type of scenario, a walkthrough of a property, or potentially even a testimonial with a particular client. So let's break this down, what you can actually do. So Instagram, you could walk into a property and let's say, for instance, the garden is a little bit overgrown and it doesn't look great. You could actually either take a video or take a picture, have the garden sorted out, seller sorted out, and then take an after picture and actually have that before and after shots going through. People seem to enjoy that on that platform. You could also do the walkthroughs, short walkthroughs going into a kitchen saying, hey, this is a fantastic kitchen. Let's have a look and see. And you can actually tell that story in the actual kitchen. You've also got your testimonials. And this is a great one. As soon as you've sold a property, you're doing the key handover, just push record and say to your clients, how are you feeling about your new home? And record that. The emotions are high, and that's what you can actually start to put through. They're very short, and people seem to be very engaging with all of that. So on Instagram, it is all about giving something that is short and sweet, but something that actually gives the entertainment value to it. And people start to remember that brand that gets associated to that. When it comes through to LinkedIn, you can't really do a walkthrough video. The audience is very different. And one thing that I came to find is it's very business orientated. And in order for it to be business orientated, you want to actually build your authority that you're in this particular industry in a business fashion. So what do you do in a business fashion? Well, you'll do things like market insights or any form of articles that's happening in the actual area. An area that most people didn't realize, but on LinkedIn, you can actually write posts, and you can put these posts or newsletters and have people actually responding and commenting on this information. You see, we're taking it to the business element. When someone is sitting in their office and they want to learn about a particular suburb and they're doing this search and it happened to come on LinkedIn, that's the mindset that they're in. They're not looking to buy a property on LinkedIn, but getting these insights and business information can really be supporting that, hey, not only am I entertaining, but I'm actually a specialist that knows about the area. So what we found, LinkedIn is primarily about education. So Instagram is about entertainment. LinkedIn is about education. So there's your two differences on there. Then we looked at the third one, and I made this one the third one because Facebook is one that can really cover all the different areas. And I really wanted to understand what is a big strength of Facebook. And this took me back to the beginning, how Facebook was actually originated. And suddenly, if you think of the spider network, it just grows and grows. I know somebody, I become a friend. They know somebody, they become a friend, and it starts to grow outwards. It's a community building platform. That's what Facebook is. It's about bringing people together in a community environment. And when you bring people together in a community environment, it's not about me, me, me. It's about us. It's about the environment that's around us. So in Facebook, instead of just sharing, hey, I'm a great agent. Hey, I've just sold a property. Hey, I've just done this. Start talking about the community. Hey, by the way, there's actually a park in the area and they're actually having a fete or a fun day in this particular area, or there's a school. Start sharing community information that you've actually picked up that you can actually start to share out. So if you think of Facebook to build a community, to get more people to follow you because they want to learn what's happening in that area, use that as one of your platforms. Now, you can always add in all the extras, but these are the priorities that they go through. And then we come down to YouTube. Now, YouTube, which is connected to Google, is actually the second largest, call it search engine. Google number one, YouTube number two. So it makes sense to start putting information onto YouTube in such a manner that you can actually start to become searchable. So organically searchable. Now, this is where you actually start to create content about how-tos. So how to actually get your house prepared for selling, how to apply for a bond, for instance. These are like the standard ones. You can also talk about neighborhoods and doing it almost like a video show if you want. What we find with YouTube, and you can actually do this, go and have a look at any of the, let's call it the broadcasters, TV channels about homes, whether it's they selling homes, renovating homes, or just talking about the lifestyle of homes. Look at that content. That content is entertainment and it's engaging. And ultimately, that is what comes into your YouTube. If you're going to be doing a video tour of a property, don't just have a video tour which has background music and just walks through the actual property. Have something that becomes entertainment, something that can actually give some form of lifestyle, something that has what they refer to as B-rolls. B-rolls are those little shortcut elements where suddenly they're focused on the actual gas burner with the flames going, and then they go out to the kitchen so that you know in the kitchen there's a gas burner. So make it something that's entertainment. But now, the reason why I put YouTube last is because it is the one that can become the biggest distraction for you. But if it's done correctly, you can do it in such a fashion that when people start to search, they will start to find you. So that fifth core element is actually the social media. And that was Instagram, which is all about entertainment. You've got LinkedIn, which is about education. You've got Facebook, which is about community building, getting more people aware. And YouTube is really, it is entertainment and education. You can link the two together in long formats that really keeps engagements going, and it keeps you across all of those particular platforms. So those are those 5 core elements that I wanted to share with you as we're going through. But now there is the very final step. I've gone through all of these elements to give you those 5 core elements, why your branding is so important and how to actually get it out there. The last part of it is really the element that will take each and every one of you to that next level. And it's an action plan. And why this was so important is when I've had conversations with agents and they tell me exactly what their marketing plans are, and then when I start looking at their social media and I start doing what we refer to as an audit, an actual brand audit, I'm seeing huge disconnects. And it's those disconnects that gets people confused as to who you are. So here are some action plans that you can now take away, besides everything that I've shared with you. But these action plans, I really want you to try this out and make sure that everything's on the same platform. The first thing, I want you to go into Google. I want you to type your name in and search for yourself. Go and do a Google search about you. Why is that so important? Well, I can tell you, if you go and meet a seller for the first time, they want to know who you are. They are going to Google you, and they will pick up all those profiles. Whatever's on the first landing page, click on each one of them, go through it, make sure that everything is in alignment. That's the first step of a brand audit. So make sure that everything is the same. So number one, Google yourself. You'll be surprised what Google has found about you, and is it all relevant, and is it exactly authentic to who you are? The second is make sure that you've got clarity on your message. Your message is, what do you want to be known for? So when you're actually doing that audit, does that message come through clearly, or is it lost? Because if it's lost, your client is going to feel lost and won't be able to connect with you. So make sure that you've got clarity in that message. What are you going to be known for? And then a little bit of cadence for you that you can do every single week. On your brand building, do these 4 elements, and you could pick it maybe a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe you do them all in one day. Maybe you schedule them. But each week, have one post which is educational. One post that is going to be educational. And if you think back, you're going to go, I've got one post a week to go onto LinkedIn. There we go. One post that becomes a little bit more personal, authentic of who you are. And because we are wanting to become more authentic, more people to engage with us, that could actually go onto Facebook, that you're going from there. You've got one testimonial post, something that's giving a review. Maybe it's a before and after, but something from there that will go onto Instagram. And then finally, well, you want to do something that is at that high level of kind of, you're in real estate, so you need to have something that is about a property. But remember, it's not about selling a property. So it's not about just listed, just sold, on show. It's about a post that will tell a story, something that becomes entertainment, something that becomes engaging, something that becomes inspirational, something that has that educational value that people want to watch and continue. Set yourself a schedule of 4 different posts. One educational, one is personal, one is like a testimonial post, and one is about property, but not just about selling property. It's about telling the story of the property. Have that as on your schedule each and every week as you're going through to build your particular brand. And what you'll find in the beginning, you might find that 1 or 2 of them are easy, and you'll slowly start to move over into the 3rd and the 4th, and it'll become natural. And as you're going through in your particular business, you're going to find that you're going to start building your brand awareness on an ongoing basis. It becomes natural. You might even invest in a virtual assistant, a PA or administrator that will be taking care of that for you. But ultimately, your authentic brand is going to be out there. When people Google you, they're going to know who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And everything is going to start to come together. So today was all about that personal branding. It is a journey, but make sure that the journey that you're going forward with your personal branding is authentic, and people can actually remember you. Because ultimately, as per that quote from Jeff Bezos, it's not about the brand that's sitting in front of you. It's about what people say about you when you're not around. That is actually the key. How are you going to get that brand that people talk about you on an ongoing basis, call it behind your back in a positive way? So I'm looking forward to going through for future sessions. Remember, if you've got any comments, pop it below, because I'm looking forward to seeing how we can help you build your brand going forward.